Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is a special program that focuses more on Edal Aadha celebration and inter-religious tolerance. To expound more on that, I've got you, the one and only historian, assistant professor, and Ustaz, that is Assistant Professor Ahmed Zekaria. Thank you for blessing us with your time. Ustaz, for someone who doesn't know more about the Edal Aadha or Arafah celebration, what does it mean and what's its significance for all religious followers, especially for the Muslims?
You are putting, I don't know, whole lots of in one bombshell. Edal Aadha is a holiday of sacrifice. And we have to go back to Ibrahim alayhi salam, peace upon him, peace upon them all. I'm not going to repeat this, but at least we have to recognize that they have peace, and we also need it here badly. Edal Aadha is a crux of the whole matter. I mean, Islam is built on 5, and these are witnessing the statement, and prayer, fasting, giving alms, zakat, and going to Hajj. And so it's crucial. If you can afford once in your life to go to Hajj, it's obligatory on every Muslim, women, men, all. There is no distinction over there. So it's extremely important holiday. Edal Aadha has lots of underlying meanings. We celebrate Arafah on the 9th of the last month. It seems as if we are clearing our budget, facing the Almighty Allah in plain land, which is called Arafah, knowing each other, and goes back to our father and mother, Adam and Hawa, Adam and Eve. So we go back to the source. They met there after the sin that they did, and Allah confessed all of our souls at that time. That is the meaning in Islam. And all our souls, which started from Adam, claim that they recognize the creation of Allah, and they accepted. That is extremely important juncture, in our life. And so each soul, my soul, your soul, all souls, according to Islam, accepted the Almighty Allah. And so we are His creation. So that is extremely important. The meeting and the confession that we had, all our souls in Arafat, is beyond imagination. So we cannot relate it to anything better than that. So the Arafah event historically is far, far away, but Edal Aadha, the sacrifice, goes back to our father Abraham, all Abrahamic faith, the 3 religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, takes him as their father. So because it's more or less similar in all religions, the 3 religions, that Abraham had his ordeal in the struggle of accepting the Almighty, knowing who is asking, is it the moon, is it the sun, or the star? And these are all ephemeral. And so finally he accepted the unseen Almighty Allah. And so that's the source for all of us, believing in one God, one creator. So that goes along with Ibrahim, as you know, he had a problem of having his progenies, and his wife Sarah accepted to marry Hagar, who is related to Ethiopia. That's also linking us with the story of Ibrahim and Hajara. So he gave, he was blessed with Ismail according to our tradition. So Ismail and Hajara were left in a barren desert in Mecca. So she had to, this is the will of Allah. She said, I have to accept. So we see the strength of believing in Allah. Ibrahim sacrificed them there, because he was assigned. So Hajara had to look for water. Safa or Marwa, we call it in Mecca. She ran from hillock to hillock, and finally she was blessed with Zamzam, which is running for the last 1,400 for a Muslim, but at least if you take the story of Hajar, which is about 4,000 years. So this water attracted individuals from all surrounding areas and established village, so she was protected. The story doesn't leave us there. And then he came back. Ibrahim came in, and this time is big demand. He was assigned to sacrifice his son. So he had to, and Ismail also accepted the ordeal. So it took him to sacrifice. Finally, we know sacrificial lamb came in and salvaged the day. So we are celebrating the 10th day after standing all alone in Arafat, mainly bare with two small loin cloth, which represents sort of the ritual of death. You don't have anything in worldly materials gone, except the two small shirts that you cover your body. So that shows you are standing in the judgment day. That is the meaning of Arafat. So having the judgment day, and then here you are having sacrificial lamb to salvage the day. And the 10th day we're supported. I mean, if we are requested, if you can afford, you have to sacrifice a lamb. And all over the world, Muslims do that in that the 10th day. Considering how many millions of animals we are losing on that day is a phenomenon. These are all to reconcile with our sins with the Almighty. We have to share it. Every lamb or cow or bullock has to be split into 3 parts. One is for the family, one is for the guest, the third part is for the poor surrounding your area. And so you share it. You don't have it all. And so these are elements that we learn from Hajj. The pilgrimage that you take, all has to be considered as a big ordeal that you have to fulfill for the gathering. Today we have a plane. It's not that difficult. You can fly within no time. But in olden days, you have to trek, It took them probably months, for some about a year. And if you lose that day, the Arafah day, you have to wait a year, because the whole event is evolved on that 9th day. If you miss that day, gone. You have to repeat it again. And so it's extremely important, extremely meaningful for individuals who could ponder on the event of the day of Arafah. So in a nutshell, these are activities that we have to pass through. In Islam, as I've already mentioned, that we have to pray 5 times a day. This is direct contact with your Creator every day. You have to do that. It could be individual or it could be congregational. At least the reward of congregation is better than the individual, but at least you can pray anywhere and everywhere, alone or with a group. But Friday prayer, noon Friday prayer, we have to do it together. Once a week, the community meets and advise each other. And once a year, the whole array of Islam individuals should come and meet in Arafah. Now Muslims are about 2 billion, so out of them representing the number had to be there in Arafah. At least it was growing from small number to 2 million, 3 million individuals meet there and pray together. So if you add up all, Arafah is extremely important. And this year, it matched with Friday prayer. So this is a double advantage. Friday is our small holiday, and now we're having it with the bigger one, and it's a multiplying effect on it. So the ones who are standing there are lucky ones.
Ustaz, you told us a lot about the Hajj Pilgrimage, which is one of the 5 pillars of Islamic religion. And for someone who doesn't have the financial abilities and the other abilities in order to have this Hajj Pilgrimage, is there anything replaceable? Is there anything that any place, to be honest, that they can go to in order to celebrate this as a replacement?
Well, it's an order. You cannot replace it as such. Attempts are there here and there, but it's not legally allowed. So you have to satisfy yourself with Eid prayer. Normally in Ethiopian context, Arafah is a smaller size when it comes to Eid prayer, because the surrounding cultures of Addis Ababa take it to their take it as a responsibility to visit their families. So they leave Addis Ababa, and we're having a smaller congregation in Arafah Salat, considering it with Eid. The first Edal Fitr Salat, where all are there in Addis, and so the number is extremely big. But Arafah is a smaller number. That goes along with the teaching of Islam. You have to reconnect with the family. You are supposed to, at least this big sin is in Islam, is cutting relationship with your relatives, with your surrounding. And so you have to.
Unity is the biggest thing.
That's it.
When it comes to Islamic teachings,
yes.
One thing that brought the Muslims around the world is unity.
Yeah, so they have to go to their families and reconnect the linkage, and so they celebrate. They make it as family gatherings, but having the watered down ritual is not Islamic as such. But now we are pushing our kids to have enjoyment, to practice the day. I mean, not the day exactly. Yeah, at least after Arafah. Now there are advertisements that I see, 2 places in Addis Ababa calling kids to come and practice the ritual of Arafah. That's good. At least that is teaching process, teaching the kids to know about Arafah rituals, because most are not prepared when they go to Arafah, and so have to follow guides, But now if they practice in their childhood, they can take it, internalize the practice, and they can repeat it anytime in their life cycle. And so that might be allowed. This is just only for children to know about the practice of the ritual. Otherwise, you cannot compete with the bigger one and claim that you have done your Hajj.
Ustaz, as one of the Abrahamic religions and celebrating this Edal Aadha, what is expected from the believer, and what are the basic religious practices, especially according to the Islamic teachings and the traditions as well? Because as we know for a fact, there are some Grage people who will go to their villages in order to celebrate it in some kind of different religious and traditional practice. Tell us about those.
Well, why don't we take the 3 Abrahamic faiths, and their relationships with Ethiopia. From the start, we've been introduced to Judaism, melted down with us, and we claim some of the wives of the prophets, Moses, Ibrahim, Musa, and others, who are related to at least Ethiopian name, from which part of Africa. If you cannot pinpoint it today, but at least through archaeology with research, will come to some conclusion in the future. At least we have wives of prophets, and so the connection is strong. And so they came in, they melted. In fact, if you go back to traditional belief system in having believing in one God, Wako, these concepts are common in Ethiopia and different cultures. Could be considered as believing in one God, and institutionalized later on. It just came because Ethiopia is put in strategic position, so linking all of the world. At least say Kaaba. They say now there are research attempts, putting Kaaba as the center of the world. You take any measurement from different angles, and they say Kaaba is the center. But I'm exposing myself to this type of new findings. I hope it will put Ethiopia also in the greater center of the world, and so we are strategically extremely important place. So the mentioning of Ethiopia in Bible and the Quran, here they are. So the link is there with Judaism, and then Christianity, Tamrin and others. The story goes as individual cases. It was from the start. Even Jesus might have come to Ethiopia. That's an aspect is considered. When it comes to Islam, at least it became state religion in the 4th century, but at least the connection was there before, because people were moving all along for different purposes, trade, education, and whatnot. Islam, from the inception, we have strong historical evidence on that line, and the first refugees who accepted Islam came into Ethiopia. So they got refugees protection from the start, and this puts us in limelight when it comes to refugee issues in the world. Refugees might have been before them in the world context, but at least when it comes to new religion and new concept of protecting the right of individuals is practiced here in the country, and we haven't yet utilized it properly, and at least it tells quite a lot. Ethiopia is known for Islam protecting it from the start, and also the nanny of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Ayman and the first caller Bilal. These are all surrounding the Prophet in early days, could be considered, when it comes to relationship between Islam and Ethiopia. It's a strong, because we have blood relationship, cultural relationship. It's not far away, just across the Red Sea. So the bondage was stronger before Islam. It's not only in Islam that started, but at least it's just before Islam the connection was strong, and so we are not learning the proper education that we have to. It's a high time now, at least, to dig in and then know more about the connections of Abrahamic faith in Ethiopian context. We are competing each other, for better share. But Abraham has already united us, believing in one God, and we shouldn't fight on the believing in one God. We have our differences. We have to respect our differences. At least we have to enshrine and celebrate our common values. In that sense, it's a good time at least to learn from big days, holidays, to recall all of us the lesson of Abraham.
Ethiopia amazingly called its diaspora to come home after the call by our Prime Minister, Dr. Abiy Ahmed, for the homecoming challenge. I want you to expound on that. What's your take on that? And what's its significance on preserving the historical significance of the relationship between Ethiopians' Islamic teachings at the same time?
Yeah, let's take diaspora and countries losing their young ones with lots of education all over the world. Some have already done their homeworks, and the reconnection was there, from exploitation to we are talking about knowledge exploitation from the third world to the first world. Now we are talking of returning to home. At least some countries have benefited from their diaspora communities for their economic challenge, solve their economic challenge. Not only that, also for creative, cutting-edge creativities all over the world. Lots of diaspora were coming from China, India, Philippines, and other countries, Yemen, Egypt, and these were areas who were exporting diaspora. But through time, the first phase was exploiting from third world to the first world. But now the return is becoming real, and most of them are benefiting from diaspora. At least remittance is one aspect, but at least there are lots of intellectual and economic benefit of this hybrid that we are experiencing. Ethiopia was complaining for a long time, and we don't know how many diaspora we have. The figure ranges between 3 and plus million, and they were young when they left, and they were active and energetic, who could have benefited for the country, and they were also, most of them were trained and educated with the meager income that we have, and helping the other world. And Prime Minister Abiy had a real insight, when he started calling diaspora with a small contribution years back, but he was saying $1 a day call. At least it had its own rumbling and was not effective as expected. But again, he started calling them back home. It's a trickling now. Probably, if you keep it alive, within the coming 5-10 years, it will become a big flood. That's what I'm expecting. And the first time was during the New Year, which was coincided with the different Christian holidays, and so it had element of religious tint, to it. And so he tried, assumed that he's trying to balance that, and he had this idea of Eid-to-Eid event. The number might not be impressive as such, but the idea is great, and so we have to keep it alive, aflame the movement. This time, normally our holiday is lunar calendar. That's a problem we have with Islam. It's not solar calendar, which we cannot fix it. It's time that we have to break. For Eid, most of them were not able to come to the country because it is amidst of their school year, so they cannot leave their kids, and they cannot take them back with them to home. So it's really difficult time. The only free time they have is now, the summer over there, and life is relaxed, and so they can have their holidays wherever they want to take. So the first Eid event had its own colorful event, though the number was not that big, but we had, I joined them to go to Harar together, and there were a substantial number of diaspora enjoying and understanding and visiting the first time to Harar. For some there was, we had a discussion, who came to Harar before, and most of them were not. This occasion helped them to go to Harar, and we were able to raise fundraising for Gondar case. Within no time we came about 500,000 within an hour. It was extremely fascinating event. So it's just you can utilize this energy for different purposes, and so knowing the country and then starting investing or coming to educate or whatever professions they have, contribute for certain days, certain months, certain years, is these possibilities are open for all of them. They could send their remittance. One is which helps the family or the economy in general. One could come and invest. It's another area, because most of them urging to come back home, but our problematic situation doesn't attract them, so we have to solve our local situation. They come for land, bureaucratic, and for each and every move they sacrifice, they couldn't get anything. And some of them, they don't have the luxury, spending days in bureaucratic procedure, and so they frustrate and go home. We have to improve from this side. Who are really interested to come back and invest? There are lots of them with big money. That's one aspect, and that in professional aspect, some of them are high notch. They could come and spend a few days, a few months, a few weeks, so we have to share this for all of them, to come and pay their debts. That's how Korea grew up. That's how Singapore and Japan or China, or most of them, they went there, they learned the lesson, they came back, invest their knowledge, and so they became knowledge bank, so these are all areas that we have to explore together with them and open up and make life smooth for them and to settle for good. Most of them are willing to settle, you urge, the urge is there, to get something in your youth. You go for knowledge, or you want to work and have money or big fund. You realize it through time. The pressure is not ends there, then you look for your birthplace, the umbilical cord connection, and so the call is there every night. The spirit knocks you, to go back home, do something. But at least if the situation is not ripe, you have split personality. You don't want to live there. You can't come here. These are areas that we have to resolve. If situation is better off here, it's not that difficult for them to come and energize the whole lots, the economy, the politics, and the social relations that we have.
Our final point is related to religious tolerance here in Ethiopia. I want you to expound more on the attributes that Ethiopians have, the moral values when it comes to interreligious tolerance.
Well, we have to separate power, politics, and the common folks at the bottom. We don't have any problem with living together for centuries, we didn't have such religious conflict. I cannot consider any war that we have gone through as religious conflict. There are some seemingly similar to religious conflict, but when you do deep analysis, it is more power politics. And I suspect the last 200 years, I suspect the missionary zeal that we encountered, we see it through Tedros, Johannes. Menelik was a bit balanced man, to a certain extent with Haile Selassie. The influence of the missionaries were there. The mission, at least the zeal in 19th century to convert Africa to Christianity was extremely strong. And so they came with energy, just like an ideology that we passed through in our time. So go to Africa, the dark continent, give it light. That was the pressure that we passed through, and that created a crack in our leaders. Tedros was warning the Muslims and other religion followers, to accept Christianity or not. They face hard days. Johannes did it worse than Tedros, the agreement of Wormida. When you consider the two, Menelik was relatively soft, considering to Johannes. So the ordeal for the Muslims was not that good during Johannes, especially Wallo was amassed very hard realities that they passed through. Haile Selassie, in his constitution, accepted strongly one aspect of the one religion, one church, one rule, and it has its sort of suffocating environment. Claiming one religion is not bad, but at least the way it was evolved was not that healthy. the Muslims were fighting for their sheer existence as Ethiopian Muslim, not Muslim of Ethiopia, because that concept was not there. They were considered as alien who came from outside as resident in the country, whereas they were part and parcel of the soil. So that was denied. That was a result of the big demonstration of the Muslims. So that was past, and so we have to learn from our history and the mistakes that we have gone through. Now is a new reality, a new time. We passed three constitutions or three concepts when it comes to religious practice. In Haile Selassie's time, it is considered as one religion for all type of things. And the Derg came in with a socialist ideology. Religion is not important, it's the opium of the people, and so that was one aspect. And this government, early days, they say secularized system. So religious fathers were in a crisis from one to the other. One was, at least the Orthodox Church was dominating and they were happy, but for the rest was not good, especially for the Muslims and the Protestants or evangelists. During the Derg, all became unimportant, insignificant. So this government gave them the distance and having their practice recognized. But they have gone through the ordeals of confusion of leadership within each church or each religious institutions. So they were having infights. In early days, we were trying to resolve the problem. As one of the elders of the country, we're discussing, in fact, the fathers of the elders council came together and realized the situation was not going the right direction. And they called for a big meeting of 3,000 souls to come together and discuss religious problems that we were passing through. Unfortunately, religious fathers, some of them were not happy with it, and the political leaders were also not happy, were not able to have the big meeting of 3,000 souls and resolve at least major problems of religious intra or inter aspect of it. So through time, we're having the problem was increasing until they came up with the council. Now they have a Ethiopian religious council. The council is handling, they just celebrating their 10th anniversary. They are doing, as a new institution, they are doing their best. But the situation that we have come through, it's not that easy. Consider all of them, except to a certain extent Catholic Church. The rest have lots of problems. They have to resolve it among themselves. Leadership, at least basically leadership crisis, and among themselves. At least now, as it is more is intra problem that we are facing within Orthodox Church. We hear lots of rumblings all along, and in Islam, the Muslim communities also have leadership crisis, and with the Protestant, with the evangelical ones also, they are having lots of leadership crisis. Safely, some of the smaller ones are happy, and Seventh Adventist and Catholic and others, Baha'i and Jehovah's Witness. You don't hear, because the number is small, and so we cannot feel the crisis they have there inside. So overall, the three major ones, Christianity, Islam, and within Christianity, the different sects, and in Islam, seems we are creating sects. We don't know how to handle it, and we are passing through hard time as it is today. So we beg them, to go back to their history and understand the past properly. They were living happily. Well, at least now the technology, population explosion, these are all factors that we have to consider. Today with communication, every individual soul has a right to say what he wants or she wants, without any control, and so that creates confusion all over the world. It's not only in Ethiopia, but at least it's a new experience that, say, like when the Gutenberg printing press came in, it created lots of havoc. The Bible became personal book, and understanding religion became personal. So we see cracks in European religious practice. Now for me, it's just simply facing about 600 to 500 something years. We're facing more or less similar rights of individuals, empowerment with new technology, and it takes quite a time, to utilize this empowerment. And now we are passing through the genies out of the bottle type of things, and we're passing through hard time. We cannot blame any individual or institutions. It's the situations that we pass through, how to handle this big machine, which gives us connection all over the world. Virtual reality is there with us. When it comes to knowledge, it's a big source. It's just like fire. You burn yourself or you cook your food, and so how to handle fire? Humanity has to sacrifice a lot. They were burning their fires, their forests and their houses. If you don't keep it properly, item which is useful could be also dangerous. And so social media is another area that we have to consider for the confusion that we are passing through. I hope the light is there at the end of the tunnel.
Ustaz, after what has happened in Silte Warabe Zone and Gondar at the same time, what is expected from the government as an entity with a monopoly of power, and religious fathers as a person or as a leader with directions to the followers? What's expected from them both in order to bring about peace, stability and unity in this country?
Well, it's part of our conclusions that we have to pass through. We need a strong hand as such a government. At least they say the monopoly of violence is for the government, and the government has to be strong-handed, in handling human rights. The issue for the government, basic minimum requirement to consider government is existing is a protection of life and property. If it's not done, then you suspect whether there is a government or not. It could start from Warada level and up to the center, to the federal level. So if your life and your property is threatened, then you suspect the crack of our government. And I wish it's not. It's just only small ephemeral that we have to pass through. If you consider it that way, we'll solve our problem. Otherwise, the pressure is strong. It's not only internal but external. So I want to say something about power politics, power relationship. I don't know whether we have mentioned last time. We have to come to see eye to eye when it comes to power issue in Ethiopia, and the intellectuals should come up with a solution for 120 or 200 million tomorrow. how to play around with power relationship, power legitimacy, power base, power philosophy. These are all issues that we have to discuss if we don't resolve it, because man is a thinking animal. We are better than the rest, and the Almighty Allah gave us thinking capacity to be guardian to this world, and so our responsibility is strong. That's why we have reward and punishment in the last days. So if we are a believer, then we have to think, thinking in line of power, how to visualize power in the country. That is a crucial issue that I have to share with all. We feel that we have constitution, we have gone through election. It's not enough. It didn't solve our problem. The last 30 years we have seen it, and so there is no solution to it. With power base that we did with ethnic politics, it didn't work, and it's not going to work. Because for me, exclusive and inclusive rights couldn't match in the Ethiopian constitution. We consider rights like my religion, my culture, and my language, and my identity, whatnot, should be enshrined in the constitution as my right. But when it comes to politics, it is evolving and inclusive all. My rights could be exclusive. I'm a Muslim, I'm Harari, I'm what, I'm not what. I'm not going to impose it on you. You could be X and Y. So I respect, you respect, that's it, The respect issue here should be there enshrined, not imposing. But with politics, it goes along with political parties with their own programs. Each party has its own program, how to resolve day-to-day problems, economic, social relationship, and that, how to live in. These are, which concerns all of us. So like oxygen is common for all of us. If you're a Mahara, it doesn't mean that you don't need any oxygen, or if you're Oromo, doesn't mean that you don't need water, or if you're Tigray, that doesn't mean you don't food. So all of us, humanity, needs these basic needs, and so politics is dealing with that, and how to manage these basic needs. So if you agree in principle, we shouldn't mix the two. These are enshrined rights. You have to respect me, I respect you, that's it. There is no imposition on that. If you trespass, the court decides. So we have to come to our senses, Within ethnic politics that we have gone through the last 30 years, is enshrining power through ethnic line. So it didn't give room for others, for the political expression. In some places they were not allowed to be elected, or they were denied, whether the constitution, the practice aspect of it was gone to the extreme, even if it's not later in the constitution, but at least the practice was not there, because the philosophy is exclusive. So politics should be inclusive. And so if you don't make it inclusive, there is no room of solving our problem. So these are small spots that we have come through the last 30 years. It's not only now, but 10, 20 years ago, we had more or less similar things. And we have to suspect the hidden hands also, not only our traditional culture and history, but the hidden hands are there. We have lots of them. So Africa, not only Ethiopia alone, is facing lots of hidden hands. Just because of our resources, the curse is there, it's not becoming blessing. And so we need lots of thought and collaboration among ourselves in Africa to at least to bridge the gap and protect our interests properly. If we don't do, then they slice us into pieces and takes a day. That's what we are facing now today in Ethiopian context, you know. The Horn of Africa has gone through ordeals, you know. We said that, okay, let's scatter, separate each other. And so Ethiopia started with losing Eritrea. Both of us became weak and started infighting among ourselves. We lost 100,000 souls, you know. For what reason? God knows. I don't understand it. And then we cracked Somalia into I don't know how many pieces, and Sudan. And we are looking for more cracking. Does it help? I doubt it. So if it doesn't, then we have to come to our senses and solve little things. The problem starts with small things, you know. There are lots of stories that we can share, you know. The fight starts with a small word and then flare up into big fire. And so Gondar or Warabi and other small areas should be taken with care. But one shouldn't forget the hidden hands altogether.
Finally, if there is a final remark, if there is a message that you want to say on this Eid, on this Edal Aadha or Arafah, and if there is any shout out to your beloved family members, now is your time.
Well, at least in Harari culture, we call it holiday of slaughtering or slaughtering of animals. And we pray to Almighty Allah, there shouldn't be slaughtering of human beings. So I hope this holiday brings us slaughtering of animals, sacrifice of animals, not human beings. We had enough of that, and we don't need any more bloodletting in Ethiopia. And I hope this holiday will bring us together. As I have already mentioned, it's an extremely important holiday for the Muslim and for Abrahamic faith also, because it goes along with sacrifice, or whether it is Ismail or Isaac, it doesn't matter. At least the aspect of sacrifice is there, and so we have to take it with reconciliation. We have to reconcile with ourselves, within our environment, ultimately with our Creator Allah. So I wish everyone happy Eid Edal Aadha.
Ustaz, thank you for making the time to have this interview, and happy Eid and happy celebration of this festivity. That's all that we've got for you inside this special edition that focused on Edal Aadha celebration and inter-religious tolerance here in Ethiopia. Thank you for staying with us, and have a lovely celebration of Edal Aadha.